Recently, Doom 2016 was beaten hitlessly for the first time, and as a modern Doom speedrunner, a video maker, and a genuinely interested person, I sat down with the man who did it, Devo. This is the full interview, which I'm releasing separately because Devo and I are just pretty chill guys. So most of this is just us going where the conversation naturally leads, rather than more structured and more well thought out talk. For those who wanted something like that, I made a video which fixes that issue. I cut out all the filler, provide context and explanation for the bits included, and have relevant visuals for better understanding. So you can go watch that if you wish. For those remaining, this is the full uncut interview, with wacky side tangents, stutters, technical issues, and everything else that entails. So, if you like all that, let's get into it. Alrighty. Hello, people. Say hi to Devo. Hello.
What's going on, guys? Hello.
And everybody in Devo's chat. Hello. Hi, I'm Raitro. If you don't know me, what would you call me, Devo?
Well, I mean, I would say that you've been on an absolutely hellacious run lately with Modern Doom, right? Speed running, doing content for YouTube. I mean, I think, would you say that you started out with Eternal? That was when you started to create content for the games?
Yeah. Basically how it worked was Eternal was like my first speed game. So what I would do was I would just speed run, and then I'd upload my PBs to YouTube. Then I get people who ask me in my chat, how does this tech work? So I'm like, okay, fine, here it is. And I explain that so many times, I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to make a video. And then just link them that. And that's how it snowballed from there.
Wait, so did you just say that Doom Eternal was your first speed game?
Yes, period.
Wow. I am thoroughly impressed, mate. That is a very big leap. Because most people... Well, you know, a lot of people will start out with some other game, right? Maybe it's a bit simpler, right? And I think it's fair to say that the modern Doom speedruns are, you know, they're pretty complicated speedruns. I mean, I've speedrun Resident Evil, and, you know, I think it's a very punishing game. You know, you make a small mistake, you lose a lot of time, but it's, you know, execution-wise, it's just not as demanding. So I think you deserve a lot of respect for jumping into the arena that is Doom, modern Doom speedrunning.
Maybe you should think twice before saying that, because my first runs were absolutely horrible of Eternal. My first run clocked in at 5.5 hours.
Yeah, but look at you now. Are you like a sub 2 hour guy, or like
sub
2 hour guy in
I think
Eternal?
it's a 156 last I checked. Yeah, 100% in Eternal. Fair. Yeah, no, it's
That's wild, mate. Everyone starts somewhere. So, you know, sub 2 hours is something to be very proud of. I would love to have a sub 2 hour. I think I'm like 227 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you want to know the great thing about streaming, I'm sure, as you know, is the great tech issues of Twitch being an idiot. Now YouTube's being an idiot for me, so my multi-streams... Wow.
That's no good.
I apologize to everybody. I'm just going to spam my link in the YouTube chat. You can join my Twitch if you want, but I'm not fixing this. I can't be fucked. In polite terms.
Sometimes good and perfect. You know, you just choose good and you run with good.
Yep.
All right.
All right, sorry, just doing one half a thing, then work. All right, but yeah, man, how you doing today? I saw you were doing some Doom 64. What's the Doom 64 about?
Well, you know, I love Doom 64, but I've never really done any challenge runs with it. So I thought, well, let's just do something, you know, that's still going to be enjoyable and fun to learn. Going to appreciate the game a little bit more, but nothing as crazy as what I have done. Just a no-death run on Watch Me Die. So kind of like an Ultra Nightmare for Doom 64.
Ah, okay, yeah. I'm working on that kind of as well, a little bit. I'm doing, trying to do, every Doom game Ultra Nightmare back-to-back, so... We got a little bit of overlap, which is just kind of neat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one way to learn and appreciate a game is to complete it without dying, you know? I think that's the first step to really knowing a game, right?
Depends on the game. Some games are kind of bullcrap. If you're asking me to... How do I put it? Okay, well, I guess... I wanted this to be an interview question, but frick it, it's too relevant. Are you going to no-hit Eternal?
No. Nah. I get this question so often, and the answer is no, because... And look, the hype would be insane. It would be a mental run. It would be insane. The hype compared to 2016 would be ridiculous. And the 2016 one was already crazy compared to anything else I've ever done. But the reason that I would not do that run in Doom Eternal is because, to me, Doom Eternal is designed in a way for you to get hit. If you could complete that game without being hit by an enemy once, that would suggest to me that the game is not implementing its design correctly. It'd be like saying, oh, can you do a no-hit of a turn-based strategy game like a Pokemon or a Final Fantasy? It's like, well, you know, you're going to get hit in those games. They're mechanically designed around you being hit. If you could complete those games without being hit, then there's some serious issues with how the game implements the design, right? So the short answer is, nah, mate. I'm going to keep my receding hairline and stop it from receding any further, and I'll let that path get blazed by someone else, I think.
Yeah, no. Did you think the idea of maybe trying to get a low hit for that, maybe not a no hit, but to see how few you could do and see like if there'd be a number you'd be happy with?
Maybe. I think a low hit would definitely be better than doing something like no health damage, right? Because I think that no health damage becomes too easy once you get Flame Belch, and especially once you get the Meat Hook Mastery, it would be too easy. But a low hit would be interesting, yeah.
Low hit is just one of those things where I think it could be cool competition-wise, but that's kind of about it. Like if we have like for example, like I think a good for example, a bounty or something would be who can beat Doom Eternal in the lowest amount of hits. You got 1 month to do it. Go. There's a $1,000 cash prize or something.
Yeah. That's actually not that's a good way to spin it.
Okay, I didn't think about that. I'm adding that to my video idea list right now. Just saying.
I think the thing with Doom Eternal no hit is I'm not sure that you would be able to do it without playing the game in a way that isn't fun. I think for 2016 it worked because it kind of complemented how most people who've played the game for a while will play the game anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're going to know where the enemies spawn. They're going to use things like weapon combos and DKSMS, and they're going to move a lot and try to avoid projectiles. Towards the end, the no-hit run sort of turned into not so much running and not getting hit by projectiles, but just killing everything before it could do anything. But I think 2016 was a bit more compatible with it just because the game is more amenable to it. It's got more cheeses, but also just the way you play the game naturally fits more with no-hit.
Yeah, it's kind of because even like, I imagine even in the most fair combat scenario, Doom Eternal just has the game design of clusterfuck, so sometimes you can just have like 6 demons looking at you and damage is basically almost unavoidable. Like I think you said early on, like that game is built on resource trading, like fundamentally. Meanwhile, Doom 2016 is like, yeah, you don't really have to resource trade. That's kind of like only a thing if you're low health.
Exactly. If you watch most people who have gotten really good at the game, play the game Doom 2016, many of them will not take that much damage anyway. Yeah. They've routed the fights really well. So there was already kind of when I came into it, a feeling of this might be feasible just based on how I've seen other people play the game and how I've played the game over the years. So yeah, I think it just felt like a more natural fit than Eternal. But it'd be wild to see what ends up happening with Eternal, and I'm really curious to see how Dark Ages plays. I think it has potential, but you can say a million things about a game that hasn't come out yet. You've got to play it. So
yeah, something tells me that since Dark Ages has like a shield, my impression is like you couldn't be able to do a no hit because the shield gets hit. Like blocking doesn't count. Yeah. So I guess the question is like, could you not rely on the shield and do it? Okay. Well,
I think it might be a better no damage game potentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were talking about that a little bit. How thank goodness the run you chose was not no damage, and that's for a few reasons that this game is a little bit bullcrap.
Yeah, it's challenging to come up with a rule set for each game because each game is going to have some mechanic in it that is in a grey area, and you know what that's like with speedrunning and rule discussions and things like that. Like, for example, in the Souls games, when you die, the run is over. It ends. But in Dark Souls 3, there's a spell called Spook that you can use to basically increase your fall distance without dying, and that's allowed, right? So there's all these kind of like odd grey areas, no hit, no damage. I think the rules that I've proposed, they're fair. They're accessible, but they're also congruent with what the Team Hitless would, most likely accept, I think. Because I think I didn't want the rules to be too harsh or too strict, because the run is so niche. How is it going to grow if the rules are like, you can't do this, but this is and this and that and these?
I guess is that sort of the goal, to get it on like a team hitless or equivalent like organization for the recognition?
I think that would be good. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like 50-50. I want that recognition for getting the run, but I want Doom to have more going for it than, the speedrunning is awesome. The modded content is great. But the more we can have, the more the game is recognized and the more people get into it, because there's all these different things you can do with it. So it's about creating something new, and getting that recognition from Team Hitless would be amazing. But I think it's the feedback I got was, you need to get more people running this, and because there needs to be a kind of a growth potential with it. And I can see that. And I totally agree. So that would be the dream, to basically get more people to try this.
I guess
be awesome.
I guess the kind of thing is like, hey, my Barbie's Pet Adventure 2 run was done damageless, team hitless, give me a spot. Like, they want like at least like an established community of sorts, which I guess is understandable. But okay, well, we've already kind of deep dived from preamble into literally interview, so.
That's a good interview, right? Things are just naturally
a little
rolling,
bit.
So it's good.
Do you talk for a living?
Nah. Oh well, I stream. That's close enough, right?
6 hours a day. Yeah, you know what?
You have to be able to talk a lot of shit to stream. So,
I mean, streaming is the hardest job out there.
Yeah. Yeah, sure thing.
You heard it here from heard it here from Devo, but I guess without further ado, I guess we'll just start it proper. Sorry, weird. Segues are hard to do. When did you start learning Doom 2016 No-Hit? Like, when did the idea first come about?
So it's funny, Shadow of the Erdtree came out middle of last year. I played through that, and then I thought, you know what, let's go back to where it started. Let's go back to Doom 2016. I was sort of done with Eternal. I didn't want to do anything else with Eternal. And so I was like, let's just play it. I didn't say anything in stream. This was July last year. And I didn't say anything to anyone. I just, in the back of my head, I'm like, I wonder if you can no-hit this game. Like, can you do it? So I just started playing the game heaps. Just like, all right, we're just going to play Ultra Nightmare. We'll just do a campaign playthrough, have a good time. And as we get closer and closer, I'm starting to think this can actually be done. And so then I started doing runs in earnest. I can't remember how long after. It wouldn't have been long, maybe 6 weeks tops, like absolute tops. And then basically since July, really, last year, if I came back to Doom and started playing it again and learning, and there were plateaus throughout those months. Getting down to a first run. I think my first run that I did with splits was maybe 48, 47 hits or something.
That's actually way better than I expected. Like, that's...
I was expecting it to be like 100. like it's going to be like 100 hits.
You're too good for the game. What can you say?
It was encouraging, right? It was encouraging.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, maybe this is doable. And then getting from 47 or it was like 48 or something like that. Getting down to 30, low 30s was not too hard. Getting from that to low 20s was harder again. And you know how this goes. Like, it's all exponential. Like speedrunning, it gets exponentially harder. Your window for errors just decreases and decreases. And getting from 21 to 12 was really hard. There were just days and streams where you're just going nowhere. You feel like you just can't do anything. No matter what you do, the game just throws you back. And so that was hard. Then I got down to, I think, about 6 or 7, and then I got down to 2. And every time I made some PB, there was always some plateau along the way. So it was like basically 7 months of grinding the game. Yeah.
Okay. If you had to approximate, how much in-game time do you think you spent on the challenge? So 7 months real time, about how many hours do you think in-game?
Oh, quick calc. By about 400 hours.
400. Wow, that's actually quite a bit.
Yeah. It's a bit, yeah, because that's just like a quick, this many hours of streaming per week, this many weeks, this many,
Yeah.
So very, very like napkin math, but yeah, it's not crazy amount of hours. Like I think for me, it doesn't feel like much because of Doom Eternal. With it was 4 years of just crazy stuff in that game. So and that was, I mean, you would have thousands of hours in Doom Eternal, right?
Yeah, no, I have. Well, actually, just barely thousands, 2,000, a little bit over. Right, last I checked. But yeah, no. Go ahead.
The thing that made it really manageable was I didn't grind the game. Like I didn't
like the no-hit challenge.
For a long time I would just do full runs and I'd stream for 3, maybe 4 hours, and so it wasn't mentally that draining compared to some other things that I might have done with Doom Eternal. And it was a bit more pleasant, like Doom 2016. Like I love Doom Eternal, right? I absolutely love the game, but if you do anything intense in that game, it is exhausting. Like it is so draining. Doing any kind of it's just go.
That's part of the reason why 100% UN is like super popular in Eternal, is because you know how exhausting it is if you played the game. So seeing somebody like play through like 2 hours of that high intensity is just like a little bit astonishing.
Yes.
But I guess that leads us into nicely, because everyone's going to ask this question if I don't ask it here: 2016 or Eternal?
I think that 2016 to me is a better overall package. I think from just the cohesion of the story, the visual style of the game, the exploration as well. The levels are a little bit more, some of those levels are a bit more open-ended than Eternals. Eternals is much more, arena, corridor, a bit of platforming, whereas in 2016 you can go into Foundry, you can route it in almost any order you want. Same with Facility.
Foundry's another good level.
Yeah, like just some of the greatest level design out of both of the games. But I think Doom Eternal, absolutely, the combat is just refined and tuned to such a high level and is so much fun. The acrobatics and the verticality of Eternal really puts its gameplay on just a different level. So, I mean, I've got some bias because I kind of feel in a way I owe 2016 a lot because it sort of started my streaming adventure. But I think it's overall a more enjoyable journey playing through the game.
So, yeah, I guess I would say I've always phrased it like this, that Doom 2016 is probably the game of greater quality, but my goodness, is Doom Eternal freaking fun, though.
Oh, yeah. The combat's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, if you just go for just the combat, it's Eternal. That has such a refined combat loop, but 2016 has, like, probably not as good, but it has, like, everything else.
Yes. Yeah,
but
I love the music in both games, but I think that the music in 2016 has a slightly more unique personality.
Yeah, I
which
think
helps it sort of stand out a bit more.
I think it's all the industrial tracks in 2016 that really help it in that aspect. You never seen like a hard, heavy, like, how to put it, FPS with heavy dubstep with guitar riffs. Like, I don't know. There's a reason why like Mick Gordon founded like a genre of metal from making these games.
Absolutely.
But you said earlier that you started your stream doing Doom 2016. What did you start doing with it all the way back then?
So I got into streaming through a friend, and I found a channel run by a guy called the Spud Hunter. And you might know the Spud Hunter. And he actually played lots of Quake Champions at the time, which was, a popular game. And he also started streaming Doom 2016, doing Ultra Nightmare. And I thought, I'll give this a go. Like, I liked this game a lot. I remember finishing it 2 years prior. God, I feel old now. And so I just started playing it on Ultra Nightmare. And then my channel just kind of grew a little bit from there, and I kept doing stuff with Doom 2016. I sort of, did some different things, played Souls games, horror games, but Doom was always kind of the main thing. And then Doom Eternal came out, and that just put a rocket on the back of the channel. But Doom 2016's always been enjoyable.
If I recall correctly, like you blew up like around Eternals, really, right?
Yeah. I think I was probably getting I was doing 0%. You know 0% in Doom 2016?
Yeah, CBT simulator.
Yeah, that one. I was doing that, and I was getting maybe like 45, 50 viewers doing that, and then, yeah, Eternal was just bonkers.
Yeah, no, the Eternal Surge was, like, influential for many channels, me included, so... Thank you, id Hype. But
yes,
I guess...
Yeah,
so,
always grateful to them for the games they've made.
So how did you go from, like, just, like, trying to get an Ultra Nightmare clear to, like, these weird challenge runs? Like, what made you push over the ledge from just, like, the casual, like, challenge run to, like, the, okay, let's get a little wonky with it now?
Oh, I think it was the appeal of something having never been done before, combined with the fact that I'd invested a lot of time in playing the games. So, you know, I've spent 6 years playing and streaming these games, and at some point you realize that you're, you know, every day you do something, you know, you have a little less time to do that thing, right? So you want to leave your mark on something in a way, right? And this was kind of that. Like, it's part of it is I want people to remember the things that I did. A little bit of it is that. But also part of it is leaving something behind for other people to try to do, right? You know, I think back to Bite Me, when Bite Me started doing 100% Ultra Nightmare. And this was 2018, 2019. He started doing that and working with Dangerous, and those guys kind of came up with all of these routes and the category and everything. And, you know, he kind of planted the seed a little bit for what would become this wild speedrun category in a Doom Eternal that so many other people would come into and make their own and take to a whole different level. So, you know, you want to leave your mark behind on something. That was, I mean, one thing for me. But I also knew that the content would be enjoyable and people would enjoy watching it. And that absolutely became true. You know, like the memes we have in our channel and the fun we have, because No-Hit, you can take a break. You can stand in a level for 5 minutes and talk to chat. It's not like a speed run where you just you have to go, right?
You got 20 seconds on the loading screen, or else they'll disqualify your run. And
yeah,
it's one of the things, especially if a game like Doom 2016, like you're talking about Bite Me, back when he pioneered the 100% UN route. These games, when you play them at like the 100% UN speedrun level, or I guess these challenge run levels, they take up a lot of your attention. Like, it's a little bit memed on like how like Doom Eternal like speedrunners, like they just don't look at chat. But like I kind of get it after playing the game at a high level. Like, there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, if you go from speedrunning Doom, modern Doom, or even OG Doom would probably be the same. Go and do something. I'm not deriding the Resident Evil speedrunners, right? I love Resident Evil and I love the speedruns, but some of the game is just holding W and walking up a corridor, and there's nothing wrong with that. You've got to get that line exactly perfect. You've got to get the exact line around the corner, A to B, going down the corridors of the RPD. Otherwise, you're going to lose time. I get that. When you swap between the two games, you're like, oh man, I can actually look at chat for a couple of seconds and not get memed. It's great.
Yeah, I guess it's because we've been bringing up other games and challenge runs into that. I guess when you're talking about No-Hit, I think the obvious comparison I'd jump to first is the Dark Souls No-Hit. Did that have like inspiration on how you make the rules for your category and how you played?
Yeah. I mean, the Team Hitless, they've got so many rules, and they've got lots of infrastructure as well for running games and having games be part of their organization. And so they were an obvious resource when it came to rules, and they have a published set of rules on their website. Anyone can find them that generally apply to you know, no hitting a game or doing a no damage run in a game. So I went and looked at their rules. That was a big resource for me, determining what counts as a hit, what isn't a hit, what counts as damage, and, you know, all these sorts of things. So, and then every game has its own little rules, but that you know, Team Hitless and Souls games kind of go hand in hand. So they were the go-to.
A little bit of a funny comparison that I once in a video made comparison of Ultra Nightmare clears specifically to like a Dark Souls no-hit run, because like how to put it, in my mind those comparisons are about fair, because Doom doesn't have like much fairness like in its kind of intrinsically designed, like we talked earlier, concept built on trading damage basically. But when I made that, I had no idea that no hit would actually be possible for those games, and then you had to come here and do this.
I think the thing with this game with 2016 is that it just has so many mechanics that make the player character so powerful. And also the enemies, the way that enemies are spawned in, they are both limited in number, unlike Eternal, and they also spawn in the same spot 95% of the time. So that gives it a little bit of a, okay, I can do this, right? This is feasible. The thing that is different between this and a Souls no-hit run is that in a Souls no-hit run, they're trying to avoid combat as much as possible, which makes sense, right? You're not going to fight every little enemy on the way to a boss. You're going to run past them. You're going to go straight to the boss, and it's an RPG. So there's some options to break your character without killing everything. But in Doom, you can't leave the room after you pop that gore nest and the demons start spawning in. So there's bits that are easier and bits that are harder. It's just different.
Yeah, no. I also, one thing that's obvious that has to be mentioned between Souls and this game is that Souls game, nearly every attack is telegraphed and quote-unquote fair. If you just don't have an enemy on screen in this game, sometimes they can just hit you because there's just no cue for you to read.
Yeah, I love the quote-unquote fair. Some of the frame data in some of those attacks is a bit how you going.
You were talking about how you played Shadow of the Erdtree. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I fought Consort Radahn before he got nerfed, and it was interesting.
Yeah, that was the exact same boss I was thinking of. It was the first boss that I rage quit.
Yeah, it was very average when it first came out. I haven't done it since they changed the spell effect density and other things, but yeah, I've heard it's better now.
I'm interested if it is, but I guess... So, I guess building on to this a little bit, how you're talking about how Souls games are about avoiding combat. That's not true for, like, the very beginning of the run when you do this thing where you hop on a rail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's an interesting question, actually. And it's, again, these grey areas in the rules, right? So one of the general principles that I have for, any play of this category and rules is to avoid going out of bounds. Right? And you're like, well, what the hell is out of bounds anyway? Oh, this is out of bounds. Oh, no, that's out of bounds. This, that, and the other.
We in the speedrun community, we have debated that time and time again. Like, nobody can come up with a definition, which makes it, hard.
I think the main thing is that an enemy could still theoretically hit you. That's one thing that would make whatever movement you're performing okay. You're not passing through a solid mesh, right? Like, oh, I'm not like, oh, there's a ceiling above me, but it's paper thin and I can pop through it. That would not be okay. And then obviously if you rail boost, I think rail boosting is okay, but you just can't clip a death plane. Yeah. Because the one thing is like, oh, okay, well, doesn't that mean that someone can just come and do your run and skip like a ton of the level? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, by all means, I think that people should be allowed to do that, because I wouldn't want people to think it's inaccessible or they can't bring their own experiences. Maybe people have done a lot of any percent speedrunning. And so they're like, oh, well, I know a rail boost that lets me, skip all of this and I can just go straight there. Great. Show us how to do the run easier so more people can do it. I think that's awesome. But obviously, there would be a different category, right? Someone's like, oh, maybe I'll do any percent full combat rating.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. I don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, no, that's terrible, right? I think with the 100% Ultra Nightmare speedrun has been innovated on really thoroughly in 2016, the last couple of years, by yourself, right? Like introducing new routing and that sort of
primarily,
stuff. So
yeah. Well, I would be lying if it was primarily by myself. Actually, I think it was almost not by myself. Like, I think more people routed around me, and I just ran the category at the time. I get world record holder privilege. What can I say?
It's a team effort, right?
Yeah. But I guess another thing you have to really consider in these runs, I was going to say fun factor, because you just said how you weren't disparaging people who found like this cool rail boost that helps them do another level hitlessly or whatever. So a lot of the decisions that you make here, like in this run, for example, like are literally just what you personally find enjoyable, right? Like,
correct.
For example, that first run, I imagine you were back in the 100% UN days. That first combat arena where you do the first rail boost sucks. It's horrible.
Yes.
One of the worst combat arenas in the freaking game. So, like, yeah, okay, you do this rail boost and you skip it. I mean, you can really just... It's the first arena in the run. It's stupid as heck. And, like, you probably can do that with enough attempts, so in reality, all you're doing is just saving yourself time.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you decide to do that combat and you're learning the run, like, good on you. Like, you know, I don't want to discourage people from doing things certain ways, but you've got to remember that the more time you spend resetting in that arena is time you're not spending doing other levels later in the run. So, you know, it's the fun factor. It's about being productive, and it's the first arena. How are you going to get upset about, you know, rail boosting the first fight? There's the rest of the game have to no-hit. So
I bet you can't no-hit the first arena. That's why you couldn't do it.
Well, I mean, I can. It's just, I just can't be bothered, man. I've got better things to do, like the rest of the game, so...
Yeah, okay, so I know the first few levels of this run are actually, how do I say it, a little bit boring by comparison. Like, the beginning of Doom 2016 is a very, very slow start with how much it limits you. Like, in the 100% route, the first couple of levels are literally just grabbing collectibles and getting to the ends. Of which, in the first few levels, it seems like mostly what you're doing is, one, doing basically the diet 100% route, and then two, playing arenas super safe in corners.
Yeah, so there's a number of arenas where I'll take a position that gives me a big advantage, right? Like, I'm looking at one right now on my stream, which is the first Gore Nest of Argent Facility.
Yes. Where
you have 2 Hell Knights, and then you either get a mix of soldiers, Hellraisers, and imps. Sometimes you get, you know, different mixes of those lesser enemies. And so there's a little cave there. There's a Praetor Suit token in there, and you go there, and if you can kill that first Hell Knight on the way there, you get the second Hell Knight. He comes straight to you. All of the projectile enemies can't see you, and you're good as gold. You get rid of that Hell Knight, and then you just clean up. So, you know, it's no hit, right? Like, there's going to be some arenas where you need to take a position that gives you the greatest chance of success, right? You're not doing a casual playthrough anymore. You need to sit down and think, how long do I want to sit here trying to do this run? Am I trying to do this the hardest way possible, or am I trying to give myself the greatest chance of success? Like, you just got to ask yourself that question.
Where did you err most of the time?
I went with give myself the greatest chance of success, obviously, because I wanted to do a no-hit run where you had to think about how to approach the problem of being hit. Like, I could just play the game, be a sweat lord, and maybe I might get lucky one day, right? Or I could sit here and go, well, I'm sitting here doing a no-hit run. I should think about it as a no-hit run. I should try to think of strategies that are specifically going to help me achieve what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah. And
as opposed to, just sweat lording my way through it.
If you do sweat lord early on, like, you can get more attempts and maybe get a low number very quickly, but getting absolutely zero, like, you're gonna need like a higher level of consistency. Which I guess going into how you consistently do this stuff. So why is your favorite mod attachment Stun Bomb?
Why is it Stun Bomb? Because it's crowd control.
Yeah.
If the enemies can't move, they can't hit me. It's great.
Yeah, it's one of those weapon mods where it's like, casually, it's like, I didn't really give it much credit, but when you see it in work, it's just like, oh, you just instantly see an enemy, and now they can't do anything at you for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, because, I mean, look, a Souls no-hit run, you're trying to learn all the attack patterns, and some bosses, they just blow them to bits, right? They'll go in, they'll do 2 attacks, and the boss is dead, right?
Yep.
So the idea is, you want to learn how to avoid getting hit, but you also want to just learn how to kill enemies before they can do anything. That's the whole thing of the run. Just get rid of an enemy before they can even move. If you can do that, you're good as gold. Projectile speed's important. Crowd control is important. Damage is obviously a big factor. And, you know, things like micro missiles, people, you know, in a casual playthrough, people love it. And then once you get a bit more seasoned, you're like, oh, I don't really like micro missiles. And then in this run, I realized, okay, an imp, a soldier, is as dangerous as an enemy with 10 times as much health. But if I use micro missiles, the projectile speed is very fast and it typically stuns them. So it gives me crowd control. So it's the same reason I use the stun bomb. It's just that crowd control factor. Remote det's good as well because I can just shoot the rocket, look away, move, go somewhere else and remotely detonate it.
Yeah, so, I was going to mention that because the strongest weapons in this game, if you go by speedrun standards, are Gauss Cannon, Rocket Launcher, Super Shotgun, unequivocally. If you're using any other weapon than that, you're basically doing unoptimal DPS. But I noticed a lot of instances you like using the minigun, micro missiles, for example, like you said, for crowd control reasons. But, like, I guess, is there any other logic to, like, why you picked some of the quote-unquote unoptimal choices?
I think the only one that really stood out as abnormal was micro missiles. Like, I think everything else kind of makes sense. I mean, mobile turret, I just use that because it's fun. It is nice on the Hell Guardians phase 2 if you get them lined up one behind the other, and you have uranium coating with the BFG damage multiplier on them, it actually does quite a bit of damage to both of them, and it sort of naturally weaves into DKSMS, and you might be close to one of the Hell Guardians, and you don't want to rotate the rocket launcher in because you don't want to take self-damage. So mobile turret's nice there, but outside of that, I just take mobile turret because it's fun to use. But the micro missiles is a big one because of the projectile speed and the ability to interrupt the movement and attacks of smaller enemies. That's it. Yeah,
I do love the minigun just being used because it's cool. I have no counter argument. That is completely valid. I guess one thing that's a little bit apparent that I guess could use a little bit more insight is when you're going through this run, this is a detail nobody will notice except for like me and probably like Doom 2016 regular viewers, but what is the logic between like your weapon upgrade order? Like, how do you go about, what do you prioritize in the early game? Because I was following through, and you seem to always put weapon points in different weapons for specific mod attachments. Like, what was your thought process?
Yes. Yeah, I kind of went through a few different iterations. Like, I think I've even got a post on my Blue Sky that shows an old route. So things definitely changed over time. But what I ended up settling on was the first thing I like to upgrade and master is I like to get Explosive Shot done pretty quickly. Get all the points into that and get that mastered mostly by the end of Foundry, because the reason I do that is it basically changes your ammo economy and the way you use the different ammo types in the middle of the run, because the Explosive Shot Cluster Strike actually does quite a lot of damage, and it doing that extra bit of damage means you don't need to throw Gauss into your damage rotation. Like a Revenant, for example, you might find a Revenant do SSG, Explosive Shot with the combat shotgun, and then just finish him off with a bit of micro missiles. Like it really can be that strong.
So that little bit of extra damage from the cluster strike was able to get you just like a little bit quicker combos.
It's quicker combos, but it's also saving me plasma ammo for when I really need it for crowd control, like using the plasma stun. And then if I really need to DKSMS something, I know that there's a good chance I will have the plasma ammo because I haven't been using it instead of using the cluster strike. Yeah. So I'll do Explosive Shot first, and then I start focusing on the stun bomb. There is an upgrade I take on the stun bomb in Res Ops. I don't know if I took it in the actual run, but I would take it to get the larger explosion, because the larger explosion would, when you get the you go into the corridor with the Berserk, when you go in there, there's two soldiers and they're both near barrels, and if you have the larger stun bomb, it often will trigger the barrel to explode and kill them both, if not one of them. But I'd take one upgrade on that, then I'd do the Explosive Shot, and then I think I would take one upgrade on the micro missile, which was the upgrade that gives you the instant load, so that you don't have to wait for the missiles to load into the cartridge. It's just bang in. That's really good because you don't want to have any downtime when you're doing damage, so just instantly load it in. And then I think after that I would take one 3-pointer. No, I take a 3-pointer on Remote Det, and it was either Improved Warhead or Jagged Shrapnel. Either one. I think I might have taken Jagged Shrapnel first, or it doesn't really matter too much because they both kind of give you the same result, right? So Improved Warhead is going to mean that you're more likely to kill a smaller enemy if you just whiff with the rocket. Like if you miss a little bit with the rocket, maybe it doesn't detonate close enough, you're still going to get the kill from the Improved Warhead. And then Jagged Shrapnel, it might not kill them because the explosion isn't as big, but the shrapnel dot, the damage over time, that will actually cause them to go into a glory kill. Like they'll be staggered, ready for glory kill. So they'll basically be crowd controlled anyway. So you kind of get the same result. Effectively, you're taking them out of the fight for a little bit.
Okay.
And then once that's done, it's... Yes.
I was about to say, it's very interesting because you seem to prioritize, like... Okay, I guess the best way to explain this is, like, to contrast it with, like, the speedrun, for example, where we don't upgrade anything in the speedrun unless we plan on mastering it. Like... So in other words, no partial upgrades, because if you don't have every upgrade, you can't work on the mastery challenge. But one thing I really appreciate about your routing is that you do a lot of partial upgrades for specific niche and wants, for, like you said, the example, that little bit of damage over time just for the glory kill state on some enemies.
Yeah, the big one is the micro missiles instant load, because the other two upgrades for that is, one is like it improves the cooldown of the micro missiles, which if you're doing weapon swapping is irrelevant. you don't worry about a cooldown on one weapon because you use that weapon and then you go and use 2 or 3 or 4 other weapons and then you come back to it.
Yeah.
So, but the instant load is 1 point, and it like doubles the effectiveness of that mod for you. So it's, yeah, in this run it's quite good because you get that stun from the missiles a little bit quicker.
Okay, well, we talked a lot about the game being bullcrap when damage aspect, but during your run, it was just bullcrap, period, full stop. 4 separate crashes.
Yeah, it was really annoying. I think it was a GPU undervolt, but I had 3 crashes and I had 1 quit out because... Have you seen that bit on Tower where I was input buffering the alt fire,
yeah,
and then I went to the rune selection screen and I changed the rune to equipment power. I came back without letting go of alt fire, and then I started using the grenade and it didn't give me any of my guns back, and I couldn't press any buttons.
Yeah, that's
so.
I haven't seen that use of the ghost state before. That's the nerd term that I've been using.
Oh, is that what that is? I don't even know what that was.
That can happen when that can happen when input buffering with like rail boost and whatnot. But it's very it's just like as soon as it happens, it's like the only way we know how to get rid of it is literally closing the game.
Yeah, I tried so many things, bring up the weapon wheel. I was thinking about I almost thought, maybe I could just get to the end of the level because there's no no combat after the second tower fight. But then I realized, I can't push the button to get out of the elevator shaft. I'm stuck in here.
I have lost 100% Ultra Nightmare runs to literally that reason, because you do a rail boost to end Argent Facility. And if during that rail boost, you can get the ghost state if you incorrectly menu. And then you're just sitting there at the end level trigger, just waiting to push it in, unable.
That's terrifying. That stuff scares me.
Okay, so speaking of, I guess, the tower area, I guess I just have to ask this for anyone who watches your runs, because it's the most common question probably a Doom 2016 streamer gets. Why are you shooting so much ammo in tower?
I get that question every day.
Yep.
And every day, one of my regulars in chat's like, just add a command for it, god damn it. I'm like, nah, I just like explaining it every time, I explain it every time someone asks. Yeah, Maynard's got one, exclamation mark ammo. And it tells you exactly why I'm doing it. But the reason I do it is because of a rune called Ammo Boost. In this game, there's this rune called Ammo Boost, and when it's level 2, you get free BFG ammo. It's a 5% chance, right? Every demon will drop BFG ammo. But the way to level it is to collect ammo. And unfortunately, in this game, you cannot collect ammo unless you have no ammo. So you have to get rid of all of your ammo. So that is why I am shooting the tower. It's not because I'm trying to destroy the tower. It's because I'm trying to level a rune. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was what they intended for that rune to work. I'm sure that was the intended experience.
Definitely. They planned on you just shooting 300 rounds outside an ammo box for the nice stack. I guess this goes back into the rune selection. You get 3 runes during this run, I guess.
Yes.
What is the optimal runes you found? Why you used?
That's actually interesting. So the runes that I pick, and I pretty much stayed with them from day dot, was Ammo Boost, which we've discussed, Equipment Power 2, which makes the hologram much, much stronger. And lastly, Rich Get Richer, which means I get infinite ammo, and I'm not getting hit, so I'm always going to have Rich Get Richer be active.
I guess, yeah, so Ammo Boost, of course, quick refresher, gives you BFG ammo when fully mastered. It's
crazy.
I mean,
it's one...
in your experience, like, you can't get hit if there's nothing to hit you, right?
Correct. That is exactly the MO. The modus operandi of this run is to not get hit and to just delete everything before it can even hit you.
So Ammo Boost rune
BFG.
Specifically for BFG ammo because, yes, equipment power for use on the hologram, which we haven't talked about. What did you use? I guess, what was your thought process when using hologram in Combat Arena? For those who don't know, just to be all-inclusive, hologram's an equipment where you put down a little clone of Doom guy that attracts enemy attention. So, one can imagine not having things shoot at you, good for not getting hit.
It's amazing for not getting hit. It's a really, really, really strong item in this game. I suggest everyone try to use it at least once, especially with equipment power 2. And when the equipment system is fully upgraded, you can basically have 100% uptime on it. As long as you don't just spam the 2 charges straight away back to back, you can almost certainly have 100% uptime on it. So, so that was, it's a big part of the run.
So a big part of the run was just, I guess, how did you care about like placement of like the hologram relative to you? Like, would you use it to bait enemies and then hide around a corner? Like, what was the use cases like?
Most of it was just place it and make sure that it's placed. Like, just make sure that it's active. It doesn't it doesn't matter too much where it is necessarily, as long as it's in a spot that's going to draw the demons into a location that's easy for you to get rid of them, right? There is some fights where it goes into a very specific spot, like the second last arena of Arbitrary. There is a corner there that I just sit in, because that room is just a dog's breakfast. Okay, it's full of imps, it's full of hellraisers, and I don't like it. Okay, so I put the hologram down on that one corner, and I just sit back and let them come to me.
Yeah, I was watching, and I was so surprised how your Arbitrary, the last arena right before Olivia, looks exactly the same to the 100% speedrun. Sit in the corner,
I know, right?
BFG, siege mode, anything you see. That's it.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, right? That's what I meant earlier when I was saying there's existing play that makes you think maybe this can be done, right? So when you see some similarities, like, yeah, okay, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, because sometimes, I mean, we get this all the time in speedrunning where it just so happens trying to do something the fastest is also the safest, or the same logic that, ammo boost in BFG is so strong of they can't deal damage to you if they're dead. Make it a certainty when it could be a chance if they're alive.
Yes, hologram is just one of those. Hologram is just one of those things in Doom 2016 that is among the plethora of cheeses in the game that this run takes advantage of.
And then last but not least, on the final rune, Rich Get Richer, part of the reason why you can siege mode all the time in that last arena in Arbitrary is because of this, the infinite ammo it gives you.
Yes. Yeah, as you know, in Doom 2016, there's no iframes attached to the end of the chainsaw animation, right? Like, as soon as that animation's over, you are vulnerable. And so if all the demons are around you, like, you're stooged, right? You're going to get hit. So if you can not have to chainsaw, perfect.
Same thing with glory kills I found in casual play. Sometimes when you're low health, go for a glory kill. You just find yourself dead because you get hit right after the animation ends.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Doom Eternal has some iframes after the glory kill, if I'm not mistaken, but you also have dash, so it's not nearly as bad.
One thing that's also beneficial about the Rich Get Richer rune is, for one, it only procs when you have above a certain armor threshold, but your plan's not to take damage a single time, so theoretically, 100% uptime usage of it. And then, two, a thing with the chainsaw is, it doesn't, there is an animation disadvantage from getting hit, but also there's a positioning disadvantage because you have to get close to something in order to chainsaw it. So now that one rune gets rid of those two possibilities. Not to mention that chainsawing just takes a lot of time, especially when you're using siege mode and blowing 60 ammo per shot.
Yeah, you can run out of plasma ammo really, really quickly, which again is why I was taking Cluster Strike earlier in the run, is just it would supplement that damage and remove the need to use as much siege mode.
Yeah, it would make that,
keeping your plasma going strong.
It would make that little buffer period before you get your Rich Get Richer infinite siege mode combo.
Yes, yeah. Once you get that rune troll done in Lazarus Labs, it's like you feel like John Wick leaving the room with a billion guns, man. You feel really powerful once you get Rich Get Richer. It's a big step up in terms of your damage potential for sure.
Yeah, I guess there's ways of looking at this run. I always had it in 2 parts. There's Doom 2016 before you get the siege mode in BFG, then after. So I guess what do you think is the main difference between the early game and late game routing? Well, for one, I could say is late game you have to do a lot more combat.
You have the thing that made the late game a lot easier for me was just using the BFG. The game is probably going to give you more ammo for it through ammo boost. So just have faith, roll the dice, and use the BFG, because that 5% chance, it might come through, you know? You just never know. It's one of those things, you smoke them if you got them.
Yeah.
So that made a big difference. Obviously, yeah, the combat density is much higher, and particularly Argent Tower is kind of, it's a hard level in the run, because it's this bridging level between the early game, the enemy difficulty of the mid game, but you don't have the player character power of the mid to late game yet. So yeah, you definitely feel that transition from something that's manageable in the early game once you've got the routing down pat, to an element of luck and playing really well in Argent Tower. And then once you get siege mode, and especially once you get rich get richer, and especially once you get the BFG, it's just like a total 180. Yeah.
Would you say that you are playing a horror game where you are the monster?
I am not going to make that joke today or ever, actually.
You see, this is the great part about talking to someone with Doom, because somebody can understand my pain.
Yeah. Go to the comment section of any video, and that's the first comment, and you just like cringe inside.
500 upvotes. This is the 5th Doom video I've seen where this is top comment.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're doom scrolling some YouTube shorts, and you see like a YouTube short come up, and that's the flavor text on it, and then this generic ass AI Adam voice is reading it out, and you're like, oh no, just end me now.
You're forgetting the AI generated picture in the background as well, where it's clearly supposed to be Halo guy, but they just add in the Doomslayer mark.
It's funny.
I guess that's another.
Yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you probably have a better thought. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to come back and recap. There is definitely a sense of the difficulty going up, plateauing as you go throughout. And I mean, that happens with casual playthroughs anyway, or casual Ultra Nightmares. You learn where the peaks and troughs of the difficulty are, and honestly, it's a lot the same in No-Hit. Yeah. Yeah,
it's like, I guess, going into the feeling, like, there are some very tough encounters this run. So many instances where you can just get instantly hit, and I have, hold on, I'm just looking over my notes. Yeah, that's a lot of instances you almost got hit. Would you like, just curious, would you like to take a guess of how many close calls you had during that run?
I want to say there was it's running Lazarus Labs where there's like 5 fireballs that fly past my head in 1 second, which was amazing, right? I think you've probably seen that bit in the Helix room. So I don't know, is that like one instance, or is it for every fireball? Because there's about 5 in there.
I would say if there's a burst of attacks count as like one attack.
Right, yeah.
So I would say those are one of a kinds. Yeah, at least for my counting method. So
there was one there. There's one in Cattinger. I think it's the second pass through the yellow skull key room. We get the yellow skull key. Where there's a couple of imp fireballs that get really, like, they almost land like right at my left foot. That was really close. Even Olivia, there was a bit towards the end, like I missed some damage during the second set of BFGs, and so she kind of was able to get some attacks off right at the end of the fight, I think.
All right.
There was some close one. There was a close one in Tower, in the second Tower fight.
Okay, but if you had to pick a number,
that red room.
I have examples. I have timestamps of all of them. Don't worry.
I would probably say like, maybe 10?
Actually, not too bad. 14.
Okay, 14.
14 close calls. The definition of that, of like an enemy threw an attack at you and it was like kind of close.
It was kind of close, yeah.
One of those ones where it was vaguely in your direction.
Yes, yeah. And then there's some that like land right in front of me or fly right past my ear.
I guess,
yeah.
Because we're talking about how close calls, part of what makes close calls like interesting is because, well, if you're trying to hit it, like, that's like, you know, a split-second decision that could have led to the end of a run. And that's probably, decisions like that have ended hundreds of runs, probably. I guess, what's always your first feeling like when you're, when you just get hit when doing the attempts? Like,
it's devastating, especially when you're a good chunk of the way through the run. It's you have to kind of it's like, okay, I'm a bit frustrated by that, and I could just end the stream now I could reset, or we just do the rest of the playthrough. And honestly, like compared to speedrunning, I think I have a much better mental approach to it with this than I did with speedrunning. With speedrunning, if I made like the tiniest, most insignificant mistake, I would reset, which was silly. Whereas with this, I just kept going. Most of the time, I would just finish the run. And until it got down to really close, you know, like I think I had a PB of 2 for a long time.
Yeah.
Once I got into that stage, I would reset until I basically ran out of time to complete a full run.
And then
yeah.
So then after, like, because my mentality always was like, if I have time left during the end of the day, like, and like I get a run that's unoptimal, or if I'm like a minute behind or something, but it's like, okay, well, it's the last run of the day, gotta finish it out, you know, practice the other sections. I imagine it's super easy to do that when the number of hits is also very high early on in the attempt counter. Because, like, if you have 30 hits...
It was so much fun early on. Yeah, it was so much fun. Because you're like, oh, my PB's 30 hits. All right, what if I just played really good for 2 levels? I halve my PB. You know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, I'm only at 26 hits. I can do the last 2 levels, no hits. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But then when it gets down to, like...
that was...
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, when it gets down to, like, 2, though, how long were you stuck at 2 hits?
God, I think I was stuck at 2 hits for like 8 weeks or something, at least.
So a couple of months of attempts just lost to the 2-hit rabbit hole.
Yeah, and a lot of that time, you know, just trying to do runs, but also revisiting strats and how to route certain areas. Like that second fight in Argent Tower, where I'm on the ring that goes around the Argent Beam, right down the center of the tower. Like, I rerouted that room. I tried so many different things in that room. I tried just staying down the bottom. I tried staying in one of the little platforms off to the side. And then eventually I had to just find the strat that gave me the greatest chance of success, which was just to go onto that top platform and just do laps around it. Because that removed the line of sight that a lot of enemies had of me. And it allowed me to kind of control the fight a bit more. Like, that's a big part of this run, is reducing enemy line of sight. Mm-hmm. But, you know, getting from 2 to 0 involved rerouting that fight. It involved rerouting a little bit of Cattinger to some extent, like the first big arena in Cattinger. I had to change that a bit. I had to change the last arena in Cattinger as well, reroute that. What else was there? There wasn't a whole lot of rerouting of things. It was just after the mid-game, it was just
curious.
Get better at
is connection good for you?
Like, just get better and better at it. And so some streams, what I would do is I'd...
Oh, no.
Go ahead. You're right. You're kind of cutting out there, mate.
All right.
I think we lost him. Oh.
Hello, Devo. Hello?
You there?
Hey. Hello.
You there?
Yeah, no, you just went robotic like halfway through that last talk and sort of cut you off. Apologies. Must have had an internet hiccup or something. Right.
Yeah, that's all good. I was just saying, the late game was just practicing the late game, getting better at it. Didn't really reroute the late game that much. I changed one thing in Argent Deneur towards the end, but most of the rerouting was in the mid game. The late game was just get better at it.
One thing that kind of impresses me a lot to combat routing and kind of makes this run, I think, just scary and a little unapproachable, intimidating, some may say, is that you have to be reactive to a lot of enemy fire all the time. Like,
yes,
you are on a knife's edge so long because you can't spawn camp up to 16 demons that can be alive at any point. Sometimes you do just have to, okay, there's 10 demons spawning alive. I got to stay in this corner and shoot them when they come around it.
Yeah, and that's what the positioning is all about. It's about limiting the line of sight of all of the demons. And thankfully, Doom 2016, unlike Doom Eternal, is a lot more scripted in terms of enemy spawn locations. It's Doom Eternal is really random with imps, especially sometimes. Just watch any speedrunner try to do Hell on Earth. The middle of that level. That room with the
barge
right after you get the grenade launcher.
Mm-hmm.
Right after you get the grenade launcher, that room is just so cooked with the imp spawns. But Doom 2016, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, there's very few times where it's random, and typically where it is, it ain't that bad.
Yes. Yeah. So, if you know the spawn locations, if you know how to use line of sight, you can take a fight that maybe has 16 enemies alive at once in it and turn it into something that is a bit more manageable. Just break it up into little chunks.
Yeah, it's kind of like a chokehold, for example, on like a shooter or something. What's it?
Yeah.
Basically a corridor.
And if you can't use line of sight, you've got the hologram, you've got BFG. Like the last fight in Lazarus Labs, right before the Cyber Demon, there's heaps of imps. There's so many imps, and they just keep coming.
And they constantly spawn in for like 90% of that fight.
Yeah, but if you know that there's a BFG pickup in a container and there's a BFG before the Cyber Demon, you're like, well, I can use 2 BFG shots here, and I can always have 3 going into the Cyber Demon fight. So, you use the BFG, throw it in. And there's a haste, quad damage, take advantage of all those things to make it more manageable.
That's a small point that I think is important to touch upon, that like BFG in like the later half of the game helps like take out randomness as a factor, because when an arena gets random, well, just BFG, now suddenly it's consistent.
Correct. Yeah, correct. You can, and it's funny, you find you're using BFG for dealing with the smallest enemies, because the smallest enemy represents the biggest threat sometimes.
Yeah, about to say, the biggest enemy and the smallest enemy have about the same projectile speed, so there doesn't really matter for the sake of this challenge.
Correct. Yes, correct. One is just as threatening as the other.
Okay, well, I guess another thing, because we were talking more about combat strategies, one thing I see you do quite a bit is, I think a very obvious one, but still one worth touching, is just spawn camping enemies when they come out of their red portals. I guess
it's honestly. Go ahead.
Oh, I was about to say, it's kind of what we've been talking about, a common theme with this challenge in a big way, to make sure you don't take damage, make sure enemies are dead. So it's basically, this is probably one of the hardest parts of the challenge, is just the strict amount of information you kind of have to learn. You just have to memorize so many spawn locations, how to do certain combat encounters. How do you think you were able to get all that? Was it just from, the speedrun experience, as you said, this game has been with you since day one, basically. So is it just all that game knowledge accrued over time, or some other method?
Yeah, it's basically that, just that game knowledge accrued over time. You probably get that question as well a lot of, how do I get better at Ultra Nightmare? And it's like, well, you just play the game. Like you just, there are definitely some things you can adopt and learn from just hearing people talk about them, but a lot of it is you just got to play the game and especially watch other people play the game. Like I learned a lot of the enemy routing stuff from watching people like Bite Me and Red Warrior play this game, back in 2019 and 2020. But playing the game a lot is the biggest thing. Yeah.
One question I get commonly that I kind of want to know your perspective on is, do you feel like that you can play Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, in fact, casually? At least nowadays.
Me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's the excitement of Doom the Dark Ages definitely helps, because you're looking forward to what the events of the story are going to be. And so as a result, you're kind of like, well, I play the game casually. I'll read the story and enjoy what happens narratively. That's a big thing for me. But I outside of that, I find it very challenging to play it casually, especially on stream. I've had people say to me, I would love to just watch you play Ultra Nightmare in the base game. Just, chill out and just enjoy that. And I could enjoy that. I'd have a good time. But it wouldn't be the same as doing some modded content or doing a challenge run or something like that.
Yeah, sure. No, I get it. Because, casual in a sense to me means, basically, trying to mimic or close to mimicking, your first playthrough sort of vibes. But I feel like in a game, after you've had so much game knowledge, after you've memorized 90% of spawns, after you know the optimal kill combos, the casual experience is sort of hard to bring back from the grave, It's been firmly dead for a while.
I think sometimes you can derive enjoyment from comfortably completing something, like going back and playing Bloodborne or a Souls game where I know what to do, where to go, what to upgrade. There's a sense of satisfaction in just playing through the game start to finish, knowing, not necessarily emulating your first playthrough of the game, but definitely not challenge running the game. Just enjoying it is one thing. Yeah. But I can't do that with Doom.
Enjoying Doom, that's impossible.
Yeah, not without some sort of challenge run or something thrown in. I mean, I love the games, right? But
one
nowadays,
thing that's
it's got to do a challenge run.
I guess that also brings back to your earlier point where the challenge run is kind of an interesting idea because that means you get to be the first to do something. Even like before I really wanted to seriously consider challenge running, everyone would made fun of me in the Doom Eternal community because I speedran with an MMO mouse. So the first thought was, okay, I could freaking speedrun with only an MMO mouse if you want me to, and so I did it just to prove them wrong.
Yeah, you were just doing a challenge run, you didn't even know it yet. You were ahead of the game.
Exactly. So you just bind all 12 of the side buttons to like a different game action and see if it's possible. It turns out, yeah, it was. And then little did I know, did crack cocaine start.
So you had like move forward, move backwards.
Yeah, exactly. All bound to like the side mouse buttons. And then weapon wheel was one of the keys, so I could like use that and then move the mouse for it.
That is incredible. I've never heard of anyone doing that. That is so cool.
It's one of those weird things where it doesn't matter if it's like I completed the fastest Doom Eternal time on January 6th, 2021. Like, fastest person named Raitro to beat that game on that day. It's like technically a world first, but I don't know. You kind of like make your own arbitrary metric. What's good enough to be a world first that isn't too specific enough?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of why I like the no-hit/no damage runs is because that feels a little bit more ubiquitous in a sort of sense of like, okay, being in a game without taking damage, that's something that you can all like intuitively grasp just a little bit. But
yeah.
One thing is like, I guess we talked about it, we skirted around it, but it probably makes sense to explicitly state this. Why did you choose no-hit and not no damage?
Because it is very easy to take self-damage in this game, and self-damage counts as damage, so I went with no-hit instead. It comes back to the fun factor that you mentioned earlier. You know, you want to make the run fun to do, as, you know, you want it challenging, fresh, exciting. People love watching it, but it's got to be fun too, so no-hit just made a lot more sense for this game. Whereas, you know, for Doom the Dark Ages, I think if it's even possible, like, we're talking real hypothetical here because no one's played the game, you know, outside
We're putting on our
software.
aluminum hats.
If you can no damage that game, it'll be a great no damage game compared to no hit, because the shield and blocking is going to be a big part of the gameplay loop. So I think no damage might be better, but for Doom 2016, because you can take damage from barrels, you can take damage from goo on the ground, from lava, you know, it just no hit seemed way more fun. But going back and watching the run, it's interesting because I only took damage in 2 instances. One of them was that, you know, that bug with remote debt where you take 1 point of damage when you're mastering it.
I actually wanted to talk about this a bit later. Was going to be my next question. Thanks, Devo. I'll give you $20 to your PayPal.
That's all right. We
can
come back to it. But
no. But what I'm saying is, like, thank you. That was such a good transition. But yeah, I guess could you go into a little bit more? I guess okay. Well, not you, but I just wanted to state that, like, I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I always assumed, like, when I exploded a rocket and I was getting, like, explosive remote det ticks, that it just barely hit me, and that's what caused me the flake of damage. But no, I went into review and testing for a little bit of it to see, like, no way that's because of the tick and not the radius. And nope, I reviewed the footage, like, pulled up a couple of my old runs, and it was like, yeah, no, that happened. Exactly 1 damage, rocket clearly out of the way.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's just been a bug in this game since forever. But for those who don't know, maybe what it is, in Doom 2016, when you fully upgrade the remote det on the rocket launcher, there is a challenge. You need to kill 3 demons with 1 remote detonation, and there is a chance. It doesn't always happen, but there is a chance that when you do that, you will take 1 point of damage on the exact frame when the little toasty pops up in the bottom right of the screen to say you earned 1 point towards the mastery. So when it comes up and it says 1 out of 15 or 10 out of 15 or 15 out of 15, there's a chance you'll take 1 point of damage, and it just makes no sense. And it's one of those things, again, that would make no damage. You would just not use remote det, or you would, but you wouldn't take both upgrades to avoid that happening.
It's one of those things where it's just like, there's no, like, intuitive way for predicting when you get that damage thing, it almost seems up to random chance. I bet there's some weird logic if we had the source code or something. Also, not to mention, the green goo in Necropolis is what I'm specifically thinking of where it's just like, oh, there's a big area damaging floor, and it's one of those ones where it's like, it just kind of doesn't feel like the same caliber as like getting hit by an enemy, you know?
Yeah, and there's reasons why in the Souls no-hit runs why you can walk over a campfire and take damage from it, and that's okay. But in no damage, that wouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
So any kind of things that are placed in the environment as part of the level design by the developers, things like the green goo in Titan's Realm, that stuff's totally fine. But in no damage, it would count. But if you if you had the invuln, then you would be okay. It wouldn't count as damage because you wouldn't be taking damage.
Yeah, unless, important distinction, except in the like explicit case of like traps where like, okay, it's clearly the dev intended that like if you messed up, you took damage. Like that counts as it. Like, but like
because it's basically like a thing that's out to get you. In a way, it's an enemy. It's out to get you.
It may not be like. It's not like a being, but it's still an enemy.
Yeah, it's a hostile. It's a thing that's placed in the environment, designed specifically to do damage to you if you trigger it. Like if you cause that trap to go off, then you're going to take it.
I feel like that kind of implies for a hit, like there has to be like the intent to hit you almost. More importantly, because like the green goo is on the ground, but not really trying to hit you. It's just a damaging goo thing.
Yeah, it would be like in Dark Souls 1 when you need to get from the bonfire to the bed of chaos, you have to walk across lava.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you can walk across the lava and you can take damage from the lava, but it's not a hit.
Okay, I just thought of a very weird metaphor, so we're gonna test this live. It's like if the difference between somebody punching you and somebody laying down and you falling on their fist. Like one of those is a hit, but the other one kind of feels like it isn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
Sure, did that pass the sniff test? All right,
yeah.
I guess let's rewind it back a little bit. You got most of your routing and knowledge back from the days of Red Warrior and Bite Me, doing 100% UN stuff. And I could tell that's a little bit of apparent because, I guess, like, did you just do that old routing because it was what you were familiar with? Or did you look at all the new kid routing of the new hundo runners and just go like, ew, no, not for me?
No, here's the truth, right? I am a fraud. I can't do anything except play Doom because I don't like learning new things. So the truth is, I just remembered what I remembered and built on top of that. I didn't look at anyone else's routing in the current speed runs. I just was like, okay, that's just how I play the game. Let's see what I need to change to make this run a bit more feasible and go from there. And that's basically what I did. Like I just adapted the route that I had. The combat routing had to be tuned a bit more, like obviously because the combat routing in a no-hit run is the biggest part of the run.
I guess there's also a certain amount of like enjoyment that comes from just the mere prospect of you did this basically all yourself, like without the help of basically anyone. So I guess
that is that's part of it. It's also when I stream, I just want to enjoy playing the game and hanging out with chat. And so for this run, I didn't really have to do any deliberate research, documenting things, routing them. Now I have to do that, right? Because now I'm trying to pass this run on to other people and I've got to do the documenting, and there's videos that are going to come out and I'm going to explain a lot of what I did during the actual run. But it's just about enjoying it. Yeah, it's just about enjoying it.
So you're telling me this was a fun run first and a challenge run second?
It was always fun, mate. Sometimes it was a bit more emotionally constipating than others, but it was always fun. It was always fun. Yeah, we I think created a lot of great memories during the 7 months, so it's good.
I'm sorry, that's just the first time I've heard the phrase emotionally constipated, and I need a second.
Take all the time you need, man.
Alrighty, well. Okay, so I guess through all my notes. I guess getting close to the end when you were getting through everything.
Yes.
Getting into the run itself. When was like the first instance in that run? Do you think like you had the thought of like, this could be it?
Like the run, no hit?
Yeah, the 0-hit run. We're skipping over 99% of your hard work for the final product now.
Dude, there was one run, I was at the very end of Advanced Research Complex. I was feeling good, and then the hologram stopped working. Just stopped working. And I should have collected myself. I should have been like, okay, it's not working, but you don't need it to win. All right, maybe you do. Maybe it's a crutch. But I don't need it. But I just freaked out and got hit. And it really sucked. It just stopped working. None of my equipment would work until I used the chainsaw on something. And then all the equipment, came back to life, right? So,
yeah, the equipment glitch, I've had it only happen a couple times. It's like super rare. So I guess we talked about your game time and whatnot, but do you know approximately how many attempts this was, like in number-wise?
Oh, I would have had to have been.
I just threw out 100 as like, a more order of magnitude estimate, but...
No, I think it would have to be the number of times I sat down and streamed and played the game. It would have to be around 110 to 130, I think, somewhere around there, because it was basically 7 months. So, it would be around 100, definitely over 100, but not by much, though. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, if you have over 100 attempts, even though this glitch has, like, me and my hundreds of attempts of UN have only seen, like, what, twice? Like, I mean, you're about to get it if you just run the game often.
Yeah, you do anything with this game and Doom Eternal, you're going to see some funny stuff eventually, and I mean, funny ending with an I.
Yeah.
Funni.
So... you got the one hit in Res Ops due to a very bad glitch, but during the run itself, the run TM, as we will call it. So you had 2 hits in your previous run, one in Tower, one in Titan's run.
Yes.
I guess, so just talking about it, Tower and Titan's Realm, like, I always guess Tower for getting hit, because Tower is, like, deceptively one of the hardest levels in the game. Do you think that pattern held well with Titan's Realm, or was that just a regular hit?
Yeah, I had to. So the arena where you get the quad and there's 2 barons at the end of it. There's several. There's 3 Hell Knights, 3 Revs, there's 3 Manx.
Yep.
I think that room there. Yeah, I had to reroute that room because the imps were just really problematic in that room, especially the 2nd and 3rd wave of imps. Because in that room, it's a big room, right?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to be far away from the imps, and it's also very easy for them to have not much line of sight of you. And when those 2 things are true, you're far away from them, and they can't see much of you. Oh, and you're not moving much. They'll generally do one of those really fast fireballs.
Yeah.
So I sort of just needed to really study where the imps spawn, and even work one BFG shot into that arena and use the quad. Because for some reason, I just was not really using the quad. And I think part of it is the idea that you're trying to focus so much on getting rid of demons as soon as they spawn that the thought of leaving the play space to go and get the quad and come back is secondary. You're like, oh, no, I just want to stay focused on getting rid of demons, so I'm not going to leave and get the quad. But getting the quad was a major change in that arena, which, just makes sense.
Yeah, it's very hard to know.
Tower was always hard.
In the quad damage versus or not to quad damage, that is the question. Because at Doom 2016, when you're at max fighting capacity, you're very powerful. Like,
yes,
we know this in the speedrun because sometimes we straight up skip full power-ups in arenas because why would we do that? We have rocket launcher plus siege mode. Like,
yeah, yep. It just makes a big difference, especially when you've got to juggle the smaller enemies with the bigger enemies. If you've got quad, well, the Cybermank is 1 DK SMS now, not a couple. Same with Manx. You can just get rid of them instantly with the quad. So, yeah, it made a big difference to that fight. And Tower was always hard. Like, Tower was just... and it's really specifically that 2nd Tower fight, which in the current route is the last fight of the entire level, because we just leave at the top of the tower.
Yeah. I will say that's a funny little thing from the invulnerability pickup that we didn't touch on. That, yeah, it's also immune to fall damage, which is just super nice because that last arena ends on a timer, so you don't have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of went back and forth a lot on the invuln. This run, I didn't use the invuln to avoid hits during combat. I used the invuln to leave the top of the tower, but I didn't use the invuln to perform combat or to participate in combat. But I think that it makes sense to allow it in this run, and if you get struck during invuln, it wouldn't count as a hit. Mostly because if you look at the way glory kills and chainsaws work, during those animations, you're effectively invulnerable. You can't really control where you're standing the same way you can with invuln. But I think that if we allow hits during chainsaw and during chainsaw and glory kill animations, then that's going to let people approach combat in slightly different ways. They might be able to take advantage of those things, and that's going to give us more strategies, going to let more people participate. Plus, also using the invuln to leave the tower at the top is kind of like using Spook in Dark Souls 3 to fall further than you're allowed to.
We're bringing that back. We're bringing that reference back.
Yeah. I mean, nice. You've always, when you're thinking about a rule and whether something makes sense, it helps to have a precedent for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's I just didn't expect that. Like we talked about Dark Souls like having some weird rules like an hour and a half ago.
Yes. Yeah, even Elden Ring. Elden Ring, I think, is even
more
bizarre. There's some things like you can make a block not count as a hit if you use a certain spell, and there's a lot going on.
There's a lot of weird exceptions. I also remember something like, for example, the bowl in Sekiro. It's on fire, so you can perfectly deflect and parry it, but you still take damage, so it counts as a hit.
Yes.
When normally, like if you walk over a campfire, you're fine. But I remember that being a little bit of a hub up in the no-hit community.
Yeah, that bull, mate. Let's not start talking about that bull.
So your second to last run, your 2-hit run, one of the hits you specifically rerouted after, and the other one was just tower being tower, I'm guessing.
It was tower being tower. I think it was also having more experience with the strat for that room in tower, that second tower fight, going on that top platform and just going around in circles. I think just having more experience with it as well helped.
Just curious, did you expect to get like a 1-hit run before getting the no-hit when you were at the 2-hit run point?
I think if I was close to getting a 1-hit run, I would just let myself get hit again, because I think mentally dealing with 1 hit would be too much. If I just did that one thing slightly differently, I would be done.
2 things my mind can handle, one thing no.
Yeah, I just take another hit, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so when you were playing through the whole run, at what point, I guess back to my original question, which you expertly politicianed your way out of, when did you think that the 0-hit run was going to be it? Like, was it after Tower, where you got your first hit in the previous run? Was it Heinz Realm?
It was after the Hell Guardian boss fight. I was very confident after that fight. Vega, the way that it's routed at the moment, is basically free. And Argentineur, there's definitely rotten luck that can happen there, but as long as you cross your T's, dot your I's, follow the route, follow the strat, should be fine. But Hell Guardians is really tricky because of that glory kill that you need to do in the second phase.
Yeah. I remember hearing so many of your rants, complaints, whatever you say it on stream, of sometimes at the Hell Guards, even if you have them like both in glory kill, you go for one and like your iframes only last for so long, and they last long enough that the other one can get out of glory kill and then maybe spawn camp you right out of your iframe.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you. Maybe not, because when you're speedrunning, you're trying to get rid of them as quickly as possible. But in the run, the melee Hell Guardian just got stuck in stagger. Like you couldn't get out of it.
No, I
don't know if that's a thing that's actually in the fight.
I know the glitch that happened. That's a very specific thing that involves them getting glory killed by the ring of the... it's something that's like... It's something that has to deal with the collision there. For some reason, Dark Lord actually has the exact same glitch in Doom Eternal Tag 2, where if you get him into glory kill near the edge, he will go back into the glory kill state after getting out of it, because I think there's something pathing issue that's not interacting well with the wall of the arena, which for some reason when they're in a default state, it's like, no, put them in glory kill, kind of like in the kill mechanism for Kakos and Doom Eternal. That's my theory.
That's interesting.
I'm putting on my tinfoil hat for that, but that would be my best guess.
Yeah, I doubt you could make that a strat because their movement is just so random, and the way that they get blown back by the BFG is a bit random at times. But if you could make that consistent, the fight would be free. It's not a hard fight. It's just that glory kill transition you mentioned where you're stuck in the animation, other ones coming up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a 50-50. I mean, maybe even I'm being generous there.
Yeah, it's one of the points of the run where it could just be up to, well, is the game feeling nice today?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, right, you said that right after Hellguards was when you were just like, this could definitely be the run. I guess you've done challenge runs, you've done speed runs, you've done Ultra Nightmare attempts. It's the last few levels are always the interesting part about the completion attempts. Am I right? You can always get like a feeling in them that you don't quite get during any other like moment of play. It's like at the end of a challenge run, knowing one mistake could fuck you right up.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild feeling getting that close, and even the runs where I'd get really a good run, right? Like let's say maybe I get to Lazarus Labs, no hit. I would, if I got hit, I would be happy regardless, because just the feeling that gives you when you're getting that close is kind of insane. And I never really felt that until I started to get that close. You know, get to Laz Labs, get to Titans, no hit. You get this feeling of like, wow, this is kind of insane. Like this could actually be a distance PB, or it could be the run, and it's a very overwhelming and exciting feeling. And I've never felt it before with any other challenge run I've ever done. You know, like a lot of the Doom Eternal modded stuff it's almost like you're chasing the sense of relief from just finally doing it, because you're so exhausted and just tired and sick of all of the crazy crap that the modders cooked up. But with this run, it was very. You go from feeling like you're bogged down in the mud to just like soaring away. You go from being stuck in the first few levels to having a run going, and it's a very wild feeling. So yeah,
then
it was a good feeling.
So then it goes wild into. So I guess it gets into a good feeling near the end. I guess, how is that different from just the wild, like, business as usual? You're in the mid game tower, maybe to facility 2, just like going on trying not to get hit, but. You could definitely, like, how does it change when suddenly, like you said, you get a distance PB in Laz Labs? Like, do you think it's like more like a
feeling?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I think the difference between just, you know, not going through the motions, but, you know, you're doing something you've done dozens of times before. You know, you've completed the early game, you've completed the mid game. When you get to that late game, it's a different feeling of you forget all of the doubt. All of the doubt just kind of disappears, because I had doubts the whole time, like especially towards the end. And I don't know if you know this, but like I became a dad recently, and time management has a totally different meaning, specifically day to day, but also more generally, you realize, okay, this thing that I love doing, I'm going to have to do a little bit less of it. And I'm not going to be able to invest the time that I used to be able to when I was, you know, 28, 29, 30, 31. Things are changing, and that compounds your doubt. And so when you start to get a run going and that feeling of doubt vanishes, and the notion that once this is done, you're never going to feel that doubt again, is insane.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Okay, I found a weird comparison to describe this challenge run. And I want to run it by you. Are you familiar with chess?
I've never played chess.
You've never played chess?
I'm not. I mean, I've seen people play it. I know of it, obviously, but never played it.
Well, it's a very common game, and I guess the details of it aren't too important. But basically, there are 3 stages of a chess game, if you go by chess standards. The opening, which is basically like a deterministic move of like, basically because chess is like only like what? 10 by 10 squares. Every single
things you can.
Every single opening has been played before, so it's known. It has a name because everyone has done it at some point. But the way that you get into the second phase of the chess game, where they say it starts, is when you start to get into a unique game, where you get into a game that nobody has played. As in, it's a completely original position. So in chess, in case you're wondering, the total number of possible chess games there are is more than the number of atoms in the known universe. Like, an insane amount of games are possible with chess.
Makes sense.
So I always think like a challenge run always evolves, like to where you get to a point of where you're new, to where you haven't been there before. I think distance PB is like, I think the defining turning point that I would say wherever I go. Like if I still have a run going, suddenly, you feel like a actual sweat drop down your forehead.
I think it's the feeling you have when you first start doing the run and you start to get those like early easy PBs, right? That fades away, and then once you start to get further and further and further into the run, you kind of get that feeling a little bit again.
Yeah,
but with everything else I mentioned slathered on top.
So anyone who knows chess, that if you've ever gotten to a chess game where you don't know what you're doing anymore, exactly the same in the challenge run, probably with just 15 times the stress level. That's the best way I can compare it.
As well, with doing speed runs and this kind of thing, your brain does kind of switch off for every now and then, because you're like, I know the strat, I got the route, but then something new starts happening and your brain's like, whoa, this has never happened before. This is stimulating, a new experience. And then that translates into how you feel about it when you're doing it.
Yeah. I guess getting into that, because we were talking about in the lead up to the end of the run TM, I always notice a familiar thing with speedrunners, challenge runners. I think there are 3 types of ways people end these types of runs. There's the person who gives literally no reaction. They just go nice, and then like they move on. There's the absolute freak out.
Yep.
Whereas the one where like emotions are at all-time high that you can't help but to scream.
Oh,
and then there's the third one that I really love, which is doing something called a shoey. I thought that was just a joke. I didn't think that people actually did it, but do you just... Why?
Mate, you've got to make people remember you. That's what it's all about, man. You can make sure people remember you, and if that involves drinking a very delicious beverage from a very used shoe, then that's what you do, mate. That's what you do. You got to cap things off. It's like putting the full stop at the end of a sentence.
Yeah.
Have a shoey. Have a good time.
Yeah. So immediately after you get the killing blow on Olivia, I noticed this with my stuff. I noticed it with a lot of other people. I noticed you did it too, so I'll point it out. But I feel like the first gut instinct and reaction of like, holy crud, I can't believe I did it. What the frick do I do? What do I say? So I just default to the, what did I just do? Oh yeah, Doom Eternal, 100% Ultra Nightmare, completed, let's go! And then I noticed you did Doom 2016 No-Hit. I'm like, you know what? That's a little bit of a relation I think people who only like do challenge run content can like really get to some extent. But I guess I just want to hear from, the lion's mouth of, how did it feel?
I had no idea what to feel. Because I went into it not knowing how I would react.
Yeah.
So in the exact moment, I didn't really know what to feel. I felt like a lot of happiness. I nearly cried shortly after it was all kind of dawning on me. And then I think I just felt gratitude and satisfaction. It sounds a bit, soppy or whatever, like not soppy, but like a bit typical to say gratitude, but not everyone gets to do this kind of stuff, and when you have a channel and you build something up and it goes places and you find that you are experiencing some success doing a certain thing, and that allows you to, have a bunch of people who want to watch you play games and hang out with you, to then be able to do something like that, no-hit a game for the first time ever, you can only be grateful, right? You're like, wow, I got to do all this cool stuff and people watch me do it. Like, that's sick. And then obviously just the satisfaction of being able to have that experience.
One One thing that you touched on that I think is very important, that a lot of people just don't see, is that there's the old ancient proverb that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And kind of like what you said, the gratefulness comes from, you know, you being able to do this to an audience, to people who want to come in and hang to it, for like the 99% of runs that utterly failed with you getting hit 15 times or whatever. And it's just like, people forget that the most of the appreciation, a lot of the fun about these challenge runs is the journey, not necessarily the completed run, but there's just like a whole story behind. I feel like that's
absolutely.
What makes these challenge runs, speed runs they're similar, so interesting, is like, it's the culmination of a story point, right, to a single thing, to the completion of being the first person to beat 2016 without taking a hit. Like,
I think, you know, a lot of it is getting the run, but also this is why people love live streaming so much and live streaming these kinds of things, is because you generate memes, and the memes will outlive the time that you spend doing the run.
Yes.
You know, I'll just grab something quickly, which is incredible to me.
Okay, well, I have to unpause your stream.
But I don't know if you know Zeus, Moonfire Midir.
I know Moonfire, yeah.
Yeah, so he has some art in Doom Eternal in the Fortress, right, where it's the Slayer with Daisy.
Hold on.
And he made this incredible piece of art and sent it through to me. I had to get it printed and framed, and it's got all the memes on it. Right? It's got the baboons in Doom. It's got the Bolt slogan. It's got Mike Tyson holding a wood saw. And you would see those sorts of things, and you just think, how is that even related to Doom? And I'm like, that's exactly it. This community came up with all of these ridiculous memes that were so funny, and are now perfectly encapsulated in this amazing piece of art, and I'll have it forever. And, you know, all of those memes will stick with the channel for years, hopefully. So, yeah, definitely. It's a lot of it is about the journey.
I completely get like this. Hell, I'm going to feel so bad because I can't remember their name example, but back in the Ancient Gods Part 2, back when that was new and people were, like, speedrunning it all out, you know, Revolution, whatnot, somebody made a super cool digital painting of Mute and Absolute Massive taking a selfie over my corpse. But the corpse was placed in like that little coffin at the end of Tag 2, you know, where the Slayers put to rest.
Yeah.
And it was a commentary on how they both beat my Tag 2 time. And I was just like, that is great. I love everything.
Yeah.
It's that picture will probably stick with me way more than, I'm going to be real, than some of my like speedrun attempts, like my world records. Like that picture, like I just got such an image in my mind.
I imagine you would probably have a better time than either of them by now, or if not now, then in the future. And
the hilarity. I'm faster than them again. I made sure to take it back for the funny reasons.
The hilarity of that image for them was outlived by the way you found it useful.
Yeah,
being faster out of spite. That's good.
Yeah, I guess that's like the best part. Like, I guess another thing, like why the art pieces, why the challenge runs are so enticing to me is like I said, these are indicative of like a story. Like that painting right there, the story of your stream and your memes. The painting of me being selfied and styled on and about how people beat my speedrun record. Like, I feel that's just the best content, and one of the best stories in Doom 2016, I think, has been, well, you getting the no-hit. So I want to just say congratulations again.
Oh, thank you. Those words mean a lot.
As someone who's oh, jinx. I've done like these like 6-7 hour long challenge runs before. I know when you're getting like to the end of it, so it's a little bit of camaraderie where I could be like, no, what you did is like, I think on caliber with like, well, I guess some of the early No Soul stuff. Hopefully, you know, we can get some more people who like to do Doom stuff. I'm intrigued by your whole journey. I might want to try this at some point.
I think it would be amazing if you tried it, but it's been an amazing journey. But it's going to be limited by where other people take it. Yeah. I think I could definitely see myself trying a full combat rating run before Dark Ages comes out, but not only to kind of, I guess, like, okay, let's be honest, like the crashes, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like them being in the run. They really, like, as a first run, you don't want that in your run. So there's another motivating factor to do a full combat rating run, but also, I would love to do full combat rating to further prove the viability of the run. Like, you don't have to skip everything. You can do all the combat, and honestly, the route wouldn't have to change that much. Argent Facility Destroyed would need to be changed. Arc would need Advanced Research Complex would need a little bit more combat farming in the first arena. Vega would need to be rerouted. And I think that Lazarus Labs has a bit of combat rating missing. The end of Tower would need to be different. But outside of that, it's basically the same run. So, yeah.
I'm kind of thinking, because, like I said, the future of this run does depend on people doing it, the community that sort of follows. Where could the community learn how to do a run like this? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Well, I'll be uploading a few different renditions of the run. One of them's going to be like a full commentary of just the gameplay with the commentary on top, and then there'll be a sort of stream highlights as well as a rewatching of the run, talking about what happened in the run. So you'll be able to find heaps of content about that on my YouTube channel, and then obviously I'm on Twitch, so if you ever want to ask a question, get an answer straight away, go straight to twitch.tv/Devo, D-E-V-O, Devo.
Yeah. I will say, you got a few videos on your YouTube channel already covering some no-hit strategies, don't you? Like the first few levels?
Yeah, first few levels. A lot of that stuff's a bit preliminary. Some of it has changed since, I've gotten further in the run, but my intention at this point is to supersede those per level videos with just a full level of the whole run.
Just a full tutorial and breakdown, sort of commentary edition. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. It's difficult to sit down and commit that kind of time to that sort of thing at the moment. So a full video of just the run and a commentary, blow by blow commentary will be, I think, just as good, if not better.
Well, be excited to see it. Thank you for having this conversation with me. It's been a super fun time. The 2 hours kind of flew by.
Yeah, it did. No, I really appreciate you taking the time to, review the run, set up this interview, have a discussion. It's been really good. So yeah, I appreciate that, and yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no. Well, okay. Well, I guess without nothing, I don't know if we want to end this with maybe just taking questions from chat or something. Like, I don't know if you'd be down for that.
Yeah, we could probably take a few. I do need to go pretty soon. But okay. We could do that.
So Devo's very important, folks. So get your questions in now for like the next, 5 minutes. Are there baboons in this game?
Yeah, are there baboons in this game? Well, I mean, the community at large, id Software would have you believe that there are no baboons in this game, but I've retrieved this document, this artifact from the depths, and it shows clearly that there are baboons in this game. All right? You can see them right there. Right? So don't believe the unbelievers. Finkelroy.
Alrighty. How much of a role did being such a handsome bastard play in achieving this goal?
Fox Plays Official, is that you? No, I don't think it played any factor, but yeah, none at all. None at all.
A shoey with Raitro. I don't have beer on me. I'm sorry. What is the theological?
Would I have finished a run with that chat? No, I would have got too bored without chat.
Unironically, I feel like the only way to do these challenge runs is while streaming, because otherwise, like, I've tried doing speedruns, I've tried doing challenge runs off stream. They just aren't fun. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because there's not enough going on. Maybe it's because I played the games too much. Maybe it's ADHD and I'm overstimulated, or I need the overstimulation. But yeah, it just ain't the same. Once you stream, you can really... It's hard to go back.
It is. Streaming has definitely enhanced my enjoyment of playing video games, so it is difficult to go back, yes.
Got a question from my chat. Was there a point in the run that you went, oh god, it's all over, but then you managed to get in control?
I think during the Helix room in Lazarus Labs, it got really out of control.
I remember that, yeah, because Imp spawn order got a little crazy during that.
Yeah, like as soon as you lose control of the imps, especially when they get up to that top platform with you on the second floor, it gets out of control. So that was pretty close. But I think mostly everything else. Oh, there was one bit in Titan's Realm, the room where the haste pickup is. I messed up the movement at the start. Usually I like to go in, get straight up to the top, grab the haste, and then do the combat. But I just totally butchered all my movement and had to play catch up. And then... I think during the Spider Mastermind fight, I missed some damage on the second set of BFGs, and so I had to do some damage during that. You know that it's not the last phase, but she's kind of winding into the last phase of the fight. I had to do some extra damage.
Oh yeah,
there
the second to third phase transition area.
Yeah. I had some missed damage there, so I had to catch up on that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Outside of that, I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was all right. Yeah,
I saw that she started her second phase, and I was already concerned, like, oh god, no.
Yeah, and she kind of queues up attacks as well. So she's like hit the health threshold for it, but she's got these attacks queued up, and yeah, sometimes you can catch her with that. So that was a bit scary, but outside of that, I think without thinking too hard about it or rewatching every bit, those were the main bits that stuck out as like, oh god, this is not good.
Oh, biggest piece of advice for someone that may want to try this run.
Learn how to cheese absolutely everything. Learn where all the enemies spawn is a big one. Learn what doing damage to which enemies triggers which phases and subsequent demon spawns is a huge part of it. But, learning also where the secrets are in the first 4 or 5 levels of the game and how to 100% the first 4 to 5 levels is really helpful. I do 100% on the first 3, and then I skip one mission challenge in Argent Facility, and then I just pick up the stuff that's convenient after that. But if you can get upgrades earlier, better. Yeah.
Alrighty, I think we touched on this a little bit, but I guess Lord Spankworthy wants to know, what's the hardest part of the run?
The hardest part of the run is probably the last bit of combat that this route does in Tower, which is the second Tower fight. It's that great big sort of red room where there's an Invuln pickup right before you get the Argent container, the second Argent container in Argent Tower. That's really hard because it's just very easy to get hit there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a circular arena, and how do I put it? There's very little cover. You can just take damage from everywhere in that arena.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty. Well, I don't see any more questions, so I think that'll do. Thanks again for the chat, Devo. It was a pleasure.
No worries. Much the same out your way. Thank you so much.
You have a good rest of your stream or whatever else you're up to today. Regardless, peace.
Yep. Have an excellent weekend, mate. And thanks again. Bye-bye.